Good morning and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Probably some of you cringe at the sound of fingernails on a blackboard. Or the other one I've heard, a fork scraping against teeth. Well, I have something like that kind of reaction when I hear people talk about those who are being confirmed and they comment that they are now joining the church. I shudder when I hear that because we join the church in baptism. At confirmation, they are becoming adult members of the church, but they have been part of the church all along. Far too often we discount and ignore the children among us. As we wrap up this week of looking at children in the Bible, little ones who play a role in God's story with God's people, I thought again about how children are an active and vital part of the church from their baptisms on. That seems to be the case with Timothy. Actually, Timothy isn't ever mentioned as a child in the Bible, but when the Bible begins to talk about him, it seems that he was likely a teenager or younger. When St. Paul met him in the city of Lystra, Timothy had been born to a Greek father and Jewish mother who had become a Christian. And I guess that's where this begins to come together. For like a lot of us, Timothy seems to have been reared in a Christian home. From early in his life, he heard and knew and learned about Christ. By the time Paul went on his second missionary journey, he took Timothy with him. And Timothy and Silas worked with Paul, telling the news of Jesus and creating churches all over Asia Minor. Timothy's grandmother was a woman named Lois, and his mother was named Eunice, and they were already well-respected members of the church in their town when Paul first visited. They were known for their piety and faith, and the Bible says that Timothy had been acquainted with the scriptures since childhood. The story of Timothy is a long one. He traveled with Paul and endured hardship for the gospel. He may also have had ill health from time to time, and there is one instance in the Bible where Paul urges him to have a little wine to ease his stomach. Of him, Paul wrote to the Philippians, "I have no one like him." And when Paul was imprisoned in Rome, awaiting martyrdom, he sent for Timothy to come for a visit so that he could say goodbye. Later in life, it seems that Timothy was the bishop of Ephesus. One legend says that when he was 80 years old, he tried to stop a pagan parade in honor of a Greek goddess, and the crowd grabbed him and beat him to death. Sometimes we think that children don't have a big role to play in church. Maybe the biggest role they have is to learn, not just by what we say and teach, but by what we do. It seems that Timothy learned those lessons well as a child in church. And maybe that should lead us to appreciate and pay a little more attention to the children among us. After all, you never know when another Timothy might be among us. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.